Just before you play it, when Vinay came, a lot of the Arsenal fans said that one of the things they loved Vinay for was the fan engagement. He really took to he listened to the fans, and we always kept a foot of what was going on, and the fan engagement within the club was at an all-time high. Well, since he's come, and in the short time he's come, you can only say that has spoken volumes, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It really, everything...
Very good communicator.
Very good communicator. Videos regularly. This new weekly, Spurs Weekly, via their YouTube channel. They have started building relationships. Like, we're seeing stuff like interviews with Thomas Frank's team or players. This isn't just after a match, I'll do a quick interview for us for Tottenham. I think what we've done media content-wise and the engagement that's been built up with the fans has been sensational from him. I really do. So for that, he deserves a lot of praise.
Absolutely. And I feel like as well, look, we'll go into the video, but when Vinay speaks, he actually talks in specifics. He doesn't just, when Levy would give an update, it would be just a bunch of, vague stuff. Whereas at least Vinay, I feel like he's actually talking to us. He's actually explaining things.
Correct.
And giving us a bit of insight rather than treating us like we don't need to know. Need to know basis.
Yep.
All right, let's watch Vinay's update about the change in the footballing structure.
Thanks for sitting down with us. A couple of big bits of news. We're saying welcome back to Fabio, and we're saying congratulations to Johan. Tell us a little bit about how their roles are going to work.
Absolutely. Well, listen, congratulations to both Johan and Fabio. So Johan being promoted and Fabio being welcomed back to the club. And this is really an important change and an important evolution in our men's football structure. So both of them will become sporting director. And what that means is that we're going to be able to benefit from both of their expertise and both of their experience in terms of how we drive the club forward on the pitch. And once this is a new structure, it's probably important to say it's not completely new. Fabio has been working for the club as a consultant, so he has been giving us advice, for example, during the transfer window and also during the process we appointed Thomas. So it's new, but in some ways not completely new.
He was involved in appointing Thomas.
Yeah. Well, remember they said when they did this that they got their shortlist and they whittled it down very, very quickly, didn't they? Mm-hmm. It looks like he has.
Because everyone assumes Johan being Danish and all that. Frank was very high on his list. You reckon Frank was Fabio approved?
He must have been. I mean, let's face it. Obviously, when it comes to talking Thomas Frank, I'm incredibly biased when it comes to this man. But he speaks to everything Spurs need. And
also, got to remember, he after the Conte move failed, he pushed for Nuno, didn't he? And he was very similar in terms of career trajectory to Frank. I mean, in terms of overperforming with middle range, with lower Premier League team, overperforming, getting them to Europe, and obviously Paratici appreciated that kind of element. I also think the fact that Frank's a bit more defensively solid. I think Fabio would like that because we saw the managers he liked. He likes managers who have got solid
That's
defenses.
the Italian in him, isn't it, with defensive. When it comes to Thomas Frank, I think it was such a no-brainer for Tottenham Hotspur and the right decision and honestly, a truly great appointment. So whoever was involved, bravo.
I think the first thing that will come to mind for fans is it's not common to see two sporting directors. What made you come to the conclusion that this was the right direction for the club right now?
Well, the role of a sporting director in modern football is really, really broad. You've got loads of departments to manage, so medical, sports science, nutrition, scouting, performance, data, the list kind of goes on. So it's a really, really big breadth of functions to manage, but it's also very deep. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that work here in the training centre that come under the remit of the sporting directors. So it's not unusual in football to have that very broad remit to be looked after by more than one person. And for me, this means that we have the benefit of both Johan and Fabio. We've got the benefit of both of their skills and, as I said, both of their expertise and both of their experience.
So let's break it down then a little bit, because as you mentioned, they both have very specific skill sets. What will they be putting those skill sets towards, and what are the different roles that they'll occupy?
Sure, yes, they will definitely both have their own areas of focus, but they will be working as a partnership. So in terms of Johan's areas of focus, he'll be focused on scouting, he'll be focused on performance, he'll be focused on football insights, he'll be focused on performance analysis, and he'll also be focused on the academy. Fabio will be more focused on players, the transfer window, and the loans and pathways department. So they have different focuses, but the reality is they will work together on everything. And in particular, they'll both come together around squad planning and player recommendations.
So, laying out, which by the way, I love that Vinay, he's happy to specifically lay out whose role, whose remit falls under who, giving us specifics, communicating with us, what Johan's going to be concentrating on, what Fabio's going to be concentrating on. I think in general, when I read the list out, that's exactly what you want. Fabio, transfers, players, all that kind of stuff. Loans and pathways I'm not certain on, but fine. Johan, scouting, performance analysis, academy, younger players. That sounds right. The only thing I would say, why would Johan be focusing on the academy and then Fabio loans and pathways? Surely,
maybe that's where they're like.
I'm saying those should be focused by the same person, shouldn't they? Well, I understand what Vinay's saying. They're a partnership. It's going to be worked together, but doesn't it make more sense? You're focusing on academy, then also you should also be in charge of the pathway.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, before we go, every time he said skill set, I kept waiting to do a Liam Neeson Taken speech. But you know what? When you look at the pathway, maybe they're looking at it both ways. From they're ready to start their pathway into the first team, and Fabio could be right. How do I get him into the first team? And it may mean loaning players out, so maybe there are parts of this partnership where they will intertwine.
I think loans make sense because Fabio's the kind of guy that can, you want a loan, I can find you a loan. You know what I mean? He's the kind of guy I can call up this club, that club. I'll get you somewhere for you if that's what you need. But in terms of a pathway, which is directly academy pathway to the first team, to me that seems like that should be in charge. The same guy who's focused on the academy would be the best placed guy to be focused on the pathway to the first team.
Could pathway also be used though for players out? As in transfers and the pathway to get them out of the football club.
Pathways.
Yeah, so that could be to get a player out of the club and then bring one of the. Who knows? I mean, obviously they haven't clarified
I guess it could be
every last bit, but I think Johan Lange's bit is the more interesting one because Fabio, you know what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. He's done this not just at Tottenham, Juventus. We know transfers. If
you would ask me, what do I think his focus would be on? I would have said. Probably
exactly
transfers.
And then now you're seeing Johan Lange doing it where he's not so much in the spotlight. It's a lot of his you're only going to be able to tell in the future, aren't you? Johan Lange's done a good job because the youngsters and this and that has come forward. And it's interesting to see. It's two heads are better than one, they say, don't they? So we shall see what happens. We hope there's no clash. But right now, seeing that broken down, because normally this being done before Vinay and everything, we'd have no clue what them two were doing, would we? We'd literally have no idea what either are doing. It'd be like, right, they're both there. But I think it's been very well spoken about by Vinay, as you mentioned, and it's very clear to us Spurs fans who is dealing with what.
Yeah, and I'm glad, I'm happy. Although I do think when he says Fabio's in charge of players, what does that mean? First team players? Does that mean... So what does that mean? He's in charge of players? That's a bit vague, I would say. Because Johan's in charge of, scouting, player performance, performance analysis. Where is it? Let me try to see if I can get it up. I've got it here. So academy, scouting, performance analysis and football insights, and then Fabio's in charge of players.
Well, I'm hoping, what I really hope, because this will be huge for Spurs, is I'm hoping, you said they're going to find someone for Lange's job. I hope that is Gabbiadini. I hope he comes back because he will be massive for the football club. So, again, we're going to have to wait and see behind the scenes, aren't we? I mean, one of the things I loved with what Paratici did before he left was what he did for the youth academy. But I remember he came in, he said, I've got a blueprint, this needs to be ripped up. And he got the youngsters to get more money. Things started changing at the football club off the pitch. So now we see what this partnership can do.
I actually think when you think about it as well, if that's what... So they've given those roles to the Lange, those, performance analysis, scouting, performance, to look over. I think that is what he wants to be doing. I think that's the kind of stuff he likes. That's what he's good at. And I think given that, Fabio's not been here, he's had to take maybe some of the responsibility where maybe either he's not comfortable, he's not as good at, which is, convincing players, calling the clubs, getting deals done. Well, that's where Fabio lives and breathes. So I think taking some of that responsibility away from Lange can let him concentrate on those things that he's good at, and then Fabio can take over. And I think, I don't know, there was something telling me when that part of it with Lange, he wasn't either good at it or comfortable with that element to things, I think.
I think they both had their areas where they needed improvement.
Yeah.
And their areas of strength.
I think Fabio's getting good deals on, but sometimes they weren't the best deals.
Yeah, but again, that goes back to could he get it done within the budget? But what I'm looking at with those two now is they're both being used to their strengths, aren't they? So it's like, don't worry about your areas of weakness that we need to try and improve. We're going to give you your key elements to work in those sectors, and they're both going to be very strong at what they do.
All right, let's keep going.
Okay, so the big question, you have two people working in a similar role. Naturally, they won't always agree on everything. What happens if they disagree on something?
Listen, I'm certainly not expecting them to agree on everything, and I'm not worried about that, and I'm not concerned about that. In fact, I welcome that. We're going to have lots of big, important decisions ahead to drive the football club forward, and I'm a firm believer in having more voices and having more opinions to make the right decisions. I think having both Johan and Fabio in roles will mean that we will make better decisions. So that will mean that we'll make less mistakes and more decisions that work for the football club.
How well do you know?
Kind of avoided that question there, didn't he?
He did. Well, like we were just speaking earlier, I would hope Thomas Frank is the right answer to that question. But again, this is fresh, this is new.
He was asked what's going to happen when they disagree. He just said, let's hope having two will lead to better decisions.
Yeah.
But I understand that, but he was asked that was one question he was asked, and he just didn't want to give an answer to it, did he?
That one he kind of played it on sitting on the fence and grabbing splinters. But like I said, I would hope when it comes to that, Thomas Frank would step in and say, right, guys, let's see what you got to say. Maybe have a presentation, whatever, and go with whatever with the pros and cons or whatever way they do it. You would hope that they would leave that to the three footballing guys, wouldn't you? So let's hope it's Thomas Frank. I've answered it for Vinay.
All right, let's keep going.
Both guys, I mean, have you worked with them both at length before? What's your relationship like with them?
Sure, listen, I've got very good relationships with both of them. I hope they'd say the same when you ask them the question about their relationships with me. But listen, more seriously, I knew Johan a little bit before I joined from his time at Aston Villa. So not well, but I knew him a little bit. And obviously we've worked really, really closely together for the last 4 months. Very smart guy, very forward thinking, very analytical. And has made real significant progress around a number of departments of the club since he joined us a couple of years ago. Fabio I didn't know before I joined, but as I said, he's been a consultant to the club, so I've also got to know him very well over the last 4 months. Fabio, hugely experienced, fantastic network. So I think with Johan and Fabio, we're bringing together two individuals who are very talented, but also to some extent have got slightly different experience and expertise, and I think they'll form a very good team. Obviously for Fabio in particular, it's been a really challenging personal last 2 years or so for him, and he's just delighted to be back in football and back here at Spurs.
And how does this?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're saying about Fabio. He said his biggest strength, big experience, big network, and that's what he brings to the table. That's what obviously he's very good at, and that's why he's been appointed, because he's got all that experience of being a top-level sporting director. He's got an amazing network of contacts. And Johan, he's good at some other stuff, like the other things.
I will say with this as well, and fair play, listen, I'll put my hand up. I was one of the ones that gave Johan Lang absolutely torrid time over the previous transfer window, saying he's no good, he can't get the big deals over the line. But you hear Vinay mention behind the scenes what he's improved and so we don't know behind the scenes what has gone on, whatever. And if he has done that, and there are things within the behind the scenes at the training ground or within the football club that has improved to him, well done. We don't get to hear it and see it. But like we said, we've got two people with now, and Fabio has his special set of skills. I'm going to keep to my take. And let's see what Johan can do. But it's good to hear him also talk, Vinay, openly saying, I've worked with Johan for a bit, blah, 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 and I didn't know Fabio Paratici before. So you get a better understanding of what's going on with them three as well, because that's going to be a big part of this, isn't it?
Absolutely. Okay, let's keep going.
This changed things for Thomas in terms of the structure.
So I've talked about this, you can probably imagine, with Thomas a lot, and he's completely relaxed about it and very happy with where we're going. He has actually explained to me that this structure of working into two people is something that he's actually really familiar with. He tells me he had a very similar structure at Brentford. He's got very good relationships with both Johan and Fabio. Just had breakfast with him just now, and he's really, really looking forward to get going. But I think he's got his press conference on Friday, so you'll hear it from him directly then.
Just finally, how do you see this change in structure and the new structure being of a benefit to the club moving forward?
Yeah, it's quite simple. So the ambition of the Lewis family is really, really, really clear. They want us to be focused on driving success on the pitch. They want more nights like the night that we had in Bilbao. And we think that putting this structure in place gives us the best chance over the long term to deliver that success.
It's mad how much we hear now. People in these interviews say the Lewis family, and how they're drumming it into us. They're the ones now in charge and they're making the decisions. Whereas we didn't hear their name. Although it's weird because they've kind of always been in charge. Yeah, we haven't heard their name up until in anyone's interviews or anything. We haven't heard their name up until a few months ago. A month ago, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Even in the summer, we talk about Daniel Levy.
Yep.
This is what Daniel Levy wants and all the stuff, and now this is what the Lewis family wants.
Yeah, and the most important thing about it, not only the Lewis family want, they keep saying success on the pitch, success on the pitch, success on the pitch, which we knew, or we've heard Vivian has wanted for a long time now, and wanted Spurs to move in that direction. And it looks like, the most important thing is right now, as we were saying earlier, all they could do is talk a good game and get things ready. In January, whether you want to say the window is harder, which it is, but I mean, you can get deals done. We'll see it's a brand new WeAre transfers, and the following summer, we will see if their actions match their words or speak louder. It's all, do you know what, like I said, between now and January, they can't do anything buying player-wise. They can just get everything in process, ready to attack the markets, which they're doing. And the most important thing in that, with that interview from me, is when they mentioned Thomas Frank. Is, remember, we saw in the window, he was saying that this transfer setup is very, very different to how I had it at Brentford, and I want to get back to that. That's what works well for me. Well, there you have it. He's got what he wanted. It looks like Spurs are listening to the manager. It looks like Spurs are trying to do everything to help the manager and allow the manager to focus on what he does, which is on the pitch. And I'll repeat again, like I said a few weeks ago, I have never been so excited as a Tottenham Hotspur fan in the whole Levy-ENIC era, because everything is looking different, both on and off the pitch. And it looks like we're being ready to move forward and be as successful on the pitch as we have been off the pitch with everything, and it's just a very, very exciting time.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I just do find it interesting as if like they're just their names being bandied about now as if they haven't been involved and these are new owners when they actually have had a say, and they could have said this earlier if they wanted to, but they've been behind the scenes and they've not wanted to make any of their feelings publicly known, and all of a sudden that's all changed. I just find that very interesting. Now we're hearing Vina, him saying it very clearly, this is what the Lewis family want, and that's what we're constantly hearing now compared to before. Well, their name wasn't uttered, it was all about Levy. That was the one. So I find that interesting. But look, that was what Vina had to say.